Welcome to Catching Up to Fi, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Becky, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your hosts. We're here to help you with your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting from.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to Fi together.
Hello, and welcome back to Catching Up to Fi. I'm Bill Yount with my marvelous co-host, Becky Heptig, and we're here for a year-end summary episode. We dropped our first trailer February 2nd. I think our first episode was almost to the day, the same day that this episode drops. It's really hard to believe that it's been a year and 60 episodes, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a year ago, we had no idea what we were doing or where we were going. But oh my goodness, it is hard to believe it's been a year. It's been fun, though. I've enjoyed it.
Well, let's do a little retrospective. There may be new listeners today, and they may not have heard how this really all got started.
Mhm.
This was a twinkle in my eye for a couple of years, really, because I knew I was a late starter. I knew there was an audience out there. I was scared to death of doing anything creative. I was an avid consumer of podcasts and blogs. I had gone down the rabbit hole when I woke up, like so many of us do. And then I realized that being a consumer wasn't enough in my life. I wanted to give back. And podcasts seemed to be a way to do it. I was a DJ in high school. This seemed like coming full circle and going back to my roots, but I didn't have the guts. And then one day, lo and behold, I heard Becky Heptig on a Choose FI podcast. And tell me how we met, Becky.
Well, I was on the podcast. I was scared to death to do that podcast episode. I thought it's praise Jesus that this is recorded and not live, because I wouldn't make it through it if it was live. But Brad and Jonathan were very gracious. It turned out well. And I have the same story, Bill. Late starter, walked through a lot of pain in my past having to do with money. And when we got things turned around and retired, I just had this burning desire to try to help people not walk through the same pain that Stephen and I did. It's like, if I can keep somebody from experiencing this, then it'll all be worth it. So the first thing I did was a blog, and which was started at 50. And then Brad and Jonathan heard my story and wanted to publish it. So I believe it was in October of 2019 when that episode aired on Choose FI. So,
Yep, I remember it well. I mean, I hadn't heard anything like it, and I was like, "This is my people. This is who I need." And then I reached out to you, right?
Yes, you did.
At the time, I was running a Facebook group called Financial Literacy Project, and it runs in the background to this day. It was a brain dump for all the things, all the content that I had come across just to get it out there. And I was proud of it, but it didn't grow organically. It was a push. It was something that I did, and it didn't get into that perpetual wheel of growth where other folks got involved. They loved what I was putting out there, but it wasn't showing any engagement.
That's the way that my blog was. The people who read it loved it, but I had a very small audience and it didn't seem to be growing. And interestingly, I had the same desire to do a podcast because I've always said I can talk a lot easier than I can write. I don't consider myself a writer, but I have no problem talking. And so I wanted to do a podcast, but I couldn't climb that hill of learning how to do it, the tech, just everything that was involved. It just looked too big to me. And I thought, I'll just never do this. So maybe once in a while I'll be invited to talk on somebody else's podcast, but I'll never have one of my own. And then Bill came along. Bill, you invited me to come talk on Financial Literacy Project. You interviewed me and it went great. And then at the end of that, Bill was like, "What would you think about doing a podcast?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I would love to do a podcast."
Yeah, this was back I don't know when we first did that, but maybe it sat on the back burner for a little while because it really started taking off a little over a year ago in the fall of
Mm-hmm.
2022.
Yeah.
And I was intimidated by the tech, but I jumped into it just like anything, just like we have to encourage our late starters to just jump in, take action, be
Right.
willing to make
Right.
mistakes. And I'm a perfectionist and I wasn't willing to make mistakes, which was part of the problem. And there was a sort of a tech hurdle. You had to figure out, okay, how do I record it? Yeah, we'll use Zoom. How do I edit it? That was the big one. And so I had to take a class on editing, and we used at the time Audacity and then another software program called Auphonic, because you have to make sure the sound quality is good. And now we have to make sure the video quality is good, because the quality of the show is the first thing people hear. And if the sound quality isn't good, I won't listen to shows a lot of the time.
Right.
And we wanted to hit the ground running out of the gates.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news for us was we had created a network, right? We had already built a pretty large network in the Phi community. So it wasn't like we were starting from ground zero, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. We knew a lot of people already in the Phi space. I mean, all of our Phi friends were so encouraging and there for us. Oh yeah, we'll listen. And Bill, you could go to any podcast and listen to their first few episodes, and they're kind of rough, and ours were too. But I felt like even though we didn't know what we were doing, that it really came out better than expected for two people who were just starting out, starting from scratch. And the encouragement from our audience really kept us going.
Well, the funny thing about it was we had like one episode in the can, right? We did my story as the first one. We did your story as the second one because we wanted to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to show people that, you know what, this is our story. We screwed it up, but you got it right and I'm getting it right. So I'm still on my way.
Yep.
But so we jumped into that, but we were going to do 10 episodes.
Right.
We were going to do them whenever we felt like it.
Mm-hmm. Figure it out, do 10 episodes and call it a season.
Yeah. And you're supposed to, what they say is you got to have 4 episodes in the can. You got to be ahead of the game. And we didn't have 4 ideas to rub together at the time. And
I love that.
and very quickly after like the first episode, we realized, we had to record one. I had to produce it and publish it every Sunday. And we realized, oh my God, we rapidly had an audience that was waiting for these episodes.
Yes.
Go figure.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
We thought we were talking to ourselves.
I can remember episode 3, we okay, we've got to have an idea. What are we going to talk about? And we did it. And I was literally out of town visiting friends. And I'm like sitting on the bed in their guest bedroom, holding the microphone in my hand because we thought we can't not put something out. We needed to keep this going because we had some momentum. So yeah, it was fun at first. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy start, and we felt compelled to do it because we got such good feedback out of the gates from the community and from the listeners that we found. And one thing we did do was we jumped on a bunch of shows and we promoted the show, and we were invited to some really big shows on Choose FI, on Jordan Grummett's Earn and Invest, on Bigger Pockets Money. I mean, we were very fortunate that we were able to market this show to much larger audiences. And at the same time, we started a Facebook community, right?
Yes, we did. And the other podcasters in the community were our cheerleaders. They told us that this is an audience that has been underserved, that this was definitely needed. And they were very, very open and generous with their information. They gave us tips about how to do this. And so they were just some awesome cheerleaders for us in the beginning. And I hope they're listening, and I want them to know how much we appreciated that.
Well, Steve Stewart was a mentor. We got on a call with him to figure out the tech. Brad Barrett was a mentor. We got on the call with him to sort of say, how have you done 600 episodes? How do we start? But we did ask for advice. We weren't in it on our own. We were definitely not alone. And I needed you as an accountability partner. And maybe you needed me as an accountability partner because it was like, okay, if Becky can do it, I can do it.
If Bill can do it. Yes, it took both of us. I don't think that this podcast would exist if either one of us had been trying to do it on our own, but the collaboration has really given both of us momentum and put momentum behind the podcast. And look where we are today. What have we got? 60 episodes in?
And we got shirts on. We got
We
catching
do.
up to 5 shirts on.
We do. We got some swag.
Yep. I mean, there were so many things that happened. And shortly thereafter, there was economy and the late starter breakout. And we had 50 people in the room that got catching up to 5 swag. And all of a sudden, we were a thing.
That's right. That's right. And I know that our audience, I'm sure, has heard this before, but one thing that I think is just so unique about our story is we literally started the podcast before we had ever met in person. We had
Oh,
only met
right, right.
online. And a lot of people are like that. A lot of people have friends. I've heard of people now that have had friends for years that they've never met face to face. But putting something like this together is a little tough. But we did not meet each other in the same room until economy, and we had already been going for a couple of months at that point. So, but that was fun. That was exciting.
Yeah, I mean, these virtual relationships that we create via interacting with content and networking with people do turn into real relationships. If you go to events like Camp Fi, and we had circled each other, we were almost at Camp Fi together, we were almost at FinCon together, we'd been in the same rooms, and it was like 6 degrees of separation where we eventually collided.
That's right. That's right. And so let's give a recap of what Catching Up to Fi is all about and what we've done in this last year.
Well, we're a mindset, money, and life podcast for late starters. Our demographics are typically 40 to 60. We have predominantly probably women, but a lot of men, and all different kinds of incomes, ranging from under 6 figures to mid 6 figures to high 6 figures. There's a lot of people interested in this. In our Facebook community, I'd like to mention again, we started with like 300 people, and that was in December of 2022. Guess what? Now we have 10,500 people in the Facebook group, and it's growing by hundreds every week. And what's so neat about our Facebook group is it is safe, it is vulnerable, it is interactive, engaged, and people get the answers to really good questions, high-level questions, low-level, entry-level questions, and they give of themselves to the point where maybe an anonymous question, but these are really interesting things and interesting stories that we share in this community, right?
It is. And I'm so happy to see that people are willing to be vulnerable. I mean, some people post as anonymous, and that's fine, but they're talking about their real issues and their real numbers and looking for real answers. And I think they get them there. And that is so cool. And
Well, we're very protective of our community.
yes.
It definitely has felt safe. We haven't had the bots, the spammers, the advertisers. And so between the podcast and the Facebook community, it's really grown. And then our network has really benefited us. Let's go back to our first guest. We had 3 episodes that were just us. And then we reached out to Late Starter Fire. She's all the way down in Australia. And I remember that episode very well because we had tech issues. Zoom wasn't working. I had to do it with my cell phone, but we made it happen. And it was only our 4th episode because we had scheduled it and we're like a gazillion time zones away. We can't let this go. We got to get it up and running. It was kind of like getting an old car to start, but we managed to get out. And you'll notice that the quality wasn't necessarily that good, but the content was great. To start with Late Starter Fire, I think was perfect.
It was. And she's all about the same thing that we are and helping people that are starting late. And so it was great to talk to her. And who can resist listening to an Australian accent, right?
Well, we've had guests from all over the country and all over the world. And we've been fortunate to have really high-powered, highly intelligent guests to help our listeners with some of the mechanics and the mindsets that they're struggling with. I mean, people like Paul Merriman, He was great. And a dear friend who I met at Bogleheads recently, he was a virtual relationship that became real too. JL Collins, never met him except for online. I can't wait to come close many times, but he's been our biggest downloads, bar none, across the
Right.
board.
Right.
And we did the FU Money episode with him, and we used the FU video clip and the meditation clip, the intro, the first two episodes.
Yeah.
And I really had a lot of fun with that. I had a lot of fun editing that one.
Well, I mean, what's not to like about J.L. Collins, the godfather of Phi?
Well, and he's coming up on the show again soon. We have another episode coming up with him on his book Pathfinders. Other folks we've had: Alan Roth, How a Second Grader Beats Wall Street; David Stein, Money for the Rest of Us; Rob Berger. He did a great job. We went through his book and he said, "You know my book better than I do."
He did. He did.
We had your son on the show.
I know. I love that. I mean, proud mom moment. I had so much fun doing that episode with Stephen. And even though he's quite a bit younger than most of our audience, I think he had a lot of valuable input for the community. So that was fun.
And I had fun with the titles. That was Top Gun 5.
That's right.
Because he's a pilot. Okay. And we've had, and a big fan of ours was Jordan Grummett. He helped us get started. He had us on his show. We were the first, he was our first guesting experience after we started the show. He came on our show to talk about his book, Taking Stock. And then through our relationships with other people, all of a sudden we met new people. We started maybe with people we knew, but then all of a sudden there were people we didn't know, like Cameron Huddleston, how to talk to mom and dad about their finances. And then my dear friend, I have to say, she doesn't do many podcasts anymore, but Sarah Catherine Gutierrez, oh my God, she came on our show and she knocked it out of the park, hitting all the buttons, talking about cash flow planning. Who else have we had on our show, Becky?
We've had Mike Piper talking about Social Security, which was great. Sean Mullaney, the FI tax guy. It's always fun with Sean talking about, in fact, we've had him on twice, talking about IRAs and year-end tax planning. Then there was Jeremy Schneider, of course, from Personal Finance Club, talking about how to invest. And Jeremy recently did a 1-hour webinar for us. That was so awesome. And it was so generous of him to do that for us and our audience. And I'm hoping everybody really got a lot out of that.
Yeah, I mean, these people have been doing it a long time. They're really smart people in the field, Jonathan Clements as well. But we haven't just had guys. It's not just white guys on the show, right? We've had racial diversity, cultural diversity, and we had Naseema McElroy on the show, who killed $1 million of debt and had a great debt story. We've had Jackie Cummings Koski on the show, who told us how to get from poverty to retirement by 49.
Right.
And then there's just been many more. We've done On the Road with Catching Up to Phi episodes. And you've been point on that because you go to every Phi event there is.
That's right.
Known
I'm a Phi event junkie.
and you take your mic. And we've been fortunate to have Mark Troutman as a guest host on some of those episodes. Right. When you were talking to retirees on an Alaskan cruise. You would go somewhere in Bali. Heck, you and Joe Salcihai did a panel in Bali. We've been all over the place. This is an international show, as is our audience, right? It's not just U.S. We got people in Australia, New Zealand, England. I think we got a few in Russia.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It's all over. It's been great. So, and we've got an event coming up tonight. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah. We want people to sign up for this. We're celebrating our year anniversary tonight.
Yes. Tonight with a Q&A. And I have to say, I don't know if I will be in attendance because I am out of town again. I'm hanging out in Phoenix with my slacker buddies. So, but if I can, I'm going to hop on tonight for sure.
Yeah, it goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up. You have to sign up through the Zoom link that's posted all over the place in our Facebook community, Instagram, etc. And we're going to be there to answer your questions, to celebrate, to get to know you at that visual level. And I hope a lot of the folks, we have more than 25 folks coming to Economy from our community, and we're going to have a meetup like we've done in other cities. We have had meetups as well. There's so many facets to this, and that I just can't believe what's happened. The gratitude I have had, and I know you have had, from the people in our community has been almost overwhelming. I've been practicing emergency medicine for 26 years, and I've gotten more sincere and amazing gratitude in the last year than I've probably gotten in 26 years of practice as an emergency physician.
It's so heartwarming to read the comments on Facebook of changes that folks have made in their life because of something that they heard on our podcast. So warms your heart.
Well, Becky, the only thing that is constant is change. And there's some changes coming to Catching Up to Phi. Tell us what they are.
There is. Catching Up to Phi is going to move into a new season. And the reason for that is because I am going to step down from behind the microphone as Bill's co host. As you've just heard, we've had an amazing first year of the podcast, and I have loved every minute of it. And as we just said, with the comments we get from the Facebook group, this was an extremely difficult decision to make because sometimes I read comments like, "You've literally changed my life." But I am 5 years into retirement and have decided that this particular season of life needs to be focused on my family, my grandkids, and some of the things that I've had on the back burner for a while. Some things have been on the back burner for 5 years and I have not picked them up yet. And so I am going to transition. I'm going to pivot from being behind the microphone to being part of the community. I'm still going to be around. I'm not going to disappear. You're going to hear from me from time to time in the Facebook group and with the weekly Many Minutes, but I am no longer going to be weekly behind the microphone, and I'm going to move into a new season of life with my family. I just had a birthday. I'm 68. And I've told a lot of people recently, I'm going to go while I can still go. And so Stephen and I are doing quite a bit of traveling and have 6 grandkids that are spread across the country. And so that's part of where my focus is going to be now. So it's been a hard decision to make. I'm sad and I'm excited all at the same time. So, but I want everyone to know that Catching Up to Phi is one big happy family. I'm just going to dispel this right now because I know everyone that is listening to this is going, "Oh no, is there something wrong? Is there something going on?" And the answer to that is absolutely no. Everything here is fine. This is just a pivot that I need to make for my season of life. And I appreciate Bill so much in the support he's given me, the things that I've learned through him, the collaboration that we've done, the friendship we've fostered, and in the support that he's given me for this decision. So I appreciate that a ton, Bill.
Well, Becky, I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
I'm going to miss you behind the mic. When you told me this, I wasn't shocked. It had come up a few times because you were like, "Okay, what's the goal here? How far is this going to go?" And then when you told me, I was sad and I was scared. I was like, "How am I going to do this on my own?" This is a collaboration, and it's best as a collaboration. Our audience is so diverse. You need the feminine, the older, the male, the younger. You need so many perspectives to reach our group. And I wasn't sure I could do it on my own. I thought the show might die. Honestly, initially I was like, "Okay, can I really keep this up by myself?" And I reflected on it. I talked to you. I talked to other folks about it, trying to figure out, okay, this is change. I don't necessarily want it. And I was still a little shocked. And then just like anything, you have to pause, plan, and pivot, just like you're pivoting. You are pivoting to more than just family. You're pivoting to a couple of things that I find pretty interesting. What else are you going to take? You're taking on new projects, right?
I am. Those things I've had on the back burner for a while. I have been doing my quilting hobby, but not a lot. So I'm going to do some more of that. And then there's some new things I want to try. I'm picking up one of the instruments I learned how to play as a kid. I want to get back into music. I want to take some cooking classes with my husband. I want to take some art classes. I'm going to try my hand at watercolor. And in addition to the exercising I already do to try to stay healthy, I decided I'm going to try a few dance classes. There's a little studio here in the town I live in. And I just found out a few days ago that they have an adult line dancing class and they have an adult hip hop class. So there's yet to be seen how this turns out, but I'm going to go try it. So I'm a big fan of, especially in retirement, I'm a big fan of throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, then you move on to the next thing. So yeah, I've got several things on my list here that I'm going to try, and we'll see what sticks.
Well, it's all about experimenting, right? We've talked a lot about the transition from pre-retirement to post-retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's clear that you're living your best life. And it's clear that you've got your finger in a lot of pots. And people don't necessarily realize how much goes into a podcast. I mean, this isn't easy. It's not like falling off of a log.
No.
Take us through a little bit. Take us a little bit about the preparation. What have we done to try and provide people with the best content we know how?
Well, I said earlier that I can talk a lot easier than I can write. If all I had to do was show up behind the mic, then I could just keep doing this forever. But it takes some time and effort to come up with the list of guests, to schedule the guests, to find out, research them. The prep and the editing are what take the longest to prep, because to do a good job, you need to know about them, what they're about. You need to have read their book if they've written one. And so it takes some time to do that. And you and I have, I think, done a good job of division of labor so that we can get all those pieces, all those plates spinning at the same time. And we've gotten much better at it now than we used to be. But yeah, it takes some work. It takes some time.
Yeah, we've been fortunate too, because the momentum we achieved, and just as our little duo has expanded into a team. It's
Yes.
turned into a social media coordinator, a virtual assistant for production, and somebody writing our show notes. This was a lot of work doing it on our own.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really was. And the prep, reading a book, you're reading nonfiction books now. You're not just reading finance books, right?
Right. I finished my first fiction book the other day.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, we're sad. I know our community is sad, but we're happy. We're happy for you that you're pivoting into new things. It's been a wild ride, a super fun year.
Yes.
We're going to see each other at Economy. We may be involved in a On the Road with Catching Up to Fi episode that you'll hear. So Becky is definitely not going away. We're going to bring her back as a guest co-host, and she's not disappearing. As she said, I just am going to miss the regular conversations. Now we're going to have to set up a little regular video chat. That's because right. It's been one of the best things that's happened to me, to get to know Becky and become best friends.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. But the even better news is there's always a new season. So Catching Up to Fi has a new season, because I am going to, there's a person coming in that's going to sit in my chair, and I am so excited about that. So tell us about that, Bill.
Well, we know this person. This person's been on the show. She's been a mystery in the background, but as I said, when I thought the show may not go on, I wanted the show to go on. Mm-hmm. And in my conversations with you and others, there was a natural, transition to this new co-host that I'm going to have. And you know her, you love her. Her name is Jackie Cummings Koski, and she was on episode 7, From Poverty to Wealth and Early Retirement. Let me toot her horn for a minute, and we're going to bring her on to chat with us today. But I want the audience to know what she brings to the show. And it's going to be dramatically different than both you and I have brought to the show. I think it's going to help extend our reach, basically. Mm-hmm. So a little bit about Jackie. Jackie not only broke the cycle of poverty, but retired decades before others told her she could, with a net worth of over $1 million. She's the author of the book Money Letters to My Daughter, and the soon-to-be author of Fire for Dummies. That's coming out soon, so watch for that. And then the Letters from My Daughter was the 2013 winner of the Excellence in Financial Literacy Education Award. In 2015, her commitment to education and empowering Americans in the area of personal finance earned the attention, and I did not know this, of our nation's policymakers, in which she was officially recognized with a congressional commendation for her accomplishments in the field of financial literacy from the U.S. House of Representatives.
Wow.
Oh my God, I'm intimidated now. Jackie was featured on the Emmy Award-winning Rachel Ray Show, where she shared her best tips on retiring early in a provocative main stage talk titled Unveiling My Real Numbers Behind Firing. She openly rejects the taboo of talking about money by transparently sharing her own numbers. I mean, she is transparent. She is honest. There isn't a question you can ask her that she will not answer. It's truly heartwarming. Her fascinating fire journey was chronicled on both CNBC, Make It, and MarketWatch, two of America's top money media platforms. Her inspiring story has also been profiled in many other well-known media outlets, including CNBC, Forbes, Business Insider, People, and Real Simple magazine. Now she focuses on following her big dream, and this is the big one, of creating a financially literate society. Since retiring early, she graduated with her master's degree in personal financial planning and financial therapy from Kansas State University. Being a lifelong learner, she also earned an accredited financial counselor and CFP, or Certified Financial Planner, credentials. It is with great pleasure that I invite Jackie to Catching Up to Fi and to the stage. Come on, Jackie, join us, please. All right, Catching Up to Fi listeners, I need to break into the show here for a moment to let you know something we forgot to tell you. Although Becky is stepping back from behind the mic and moving on to so many projects, just wanted to let you know that you'll be hearing from her in the next few weeks on episodes up until the end of March. Let's get back to the show.
Hey, you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm going to cry.
Well, that was a long-winded intro, but you've got a lot to talk about. So what am I supposed to do?
I know. Well, thank you. Man, you made me feel like I was 10 feet tall.
And the best part, too, what wasn't in the intro was she's humble. You would not know all of these things. She is, in every woman and every man, she is just the most humble person, and I call her a dear friend. Jackie, tell us when we met, because this is not our first rodeo, right?
Yeah, well, before we get to that, I want to make sure I understand what's going on here. Okay, so Becky breaks up with Bill, breaks his heart. Bill is heartbroken and crying. He's on the rebound. You're coming to me and you want me to be the rebound chick? Is that the way it's going down here?
I never thought of it that way. This wasn't a divorce.
I love it, Jackie.
This wasn't a divorce. I guess it's not even a breakup. It's just we're just separating.
See, you are stuttering just like a guy stutters when he's kind of caught in the middle. Like, no, I'm just kidding.
No, well, you can't see it on the show, but I'm blushing.
He is blushing. He is red. I mean, truly a pivotal moment, like Becky was saying. And when you came to me and asked me if I would join you on the show, I'm like, but you and Becky has so much chemistry. How could I ever replace Becky? So we've had many conversations since that time. And it's truly an honor because I was a super fan from day one. And yes. Back to how we met. So in 2020, most of us think about the pandemic. And there was one last big event that we did before the pandemic, and that was economy. I mean, when it was done, we were literally running out of the building saying the pandemic's coming. But the show went on, and I had just retired in December of 2019. And my first public appearance talking about my journey where I felt comfortable just sharing all my numbers, just blasting them out, was on the economy stage. And right after I got done, Bill was so friendly. My daughter was there. I had a good friend of mine there. And I've never ran into someone more friendly than Bill. I didn't know what he did. I didn't really know anything about him. We ended up having lunch. And ever since then, we became fast friends, not only with him, but his wife, which I like better than Bill.
Oh, yeah. My wife comes to these events. The economy is there every year. and we're going again this year. We'll see, all of us will see each other at Economy this year.
Yeah.
And she is a super fan too, just in the background.
Yeah, she is. So over the years, you had come to Economy, and I live very close to Cincinnati. So it's pretty close. And I kind of know that that's on my schedule every year, no matter what, without fail. So we kept in touch over the years, and we reconnected every time you came to Economy. So, and I felt like I was a late starter. That was part of my talk. I was a late starter. I think I was 38 when I did my first net worth statement, and we had people retiring early at 38. So that was my whole theme. And then when I saw that Bill and Becky came up with this podcast, this community, I'm like, yay, finally somebody's like putting in the atmosphere what I was thinking and did something about it, where it was available to so many more people. So I became a moderator in the Facebook group. No problem with that. I shared the podcast with everyone. Was happy to share it on social media, talked about it. Hopefully I was the first review and gave the first rating and all of that. So
if you weren't the first, you were right there in the top 5.
That's right.
Yeah. So I was a super fan, you guys, and it's just been truly amazing to see what you guys have accomplished. Now, you might not have been expecting this, but I really want to give you guys your flowers, because you alluded to a few things of what you accomplished with the podcast, with the community, and all of that. And I kind of distilled them down just a little bit more, but there was I think I came up with 11 things that were just truly unbelievable. So as I'm stepping into this role, I can't even do that without giving you guys your kudos. So let me get to this, all right? And I can also say this, as an end user, as someone listening to the podcast, not knowing all the work that went into it or anything, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, even the early episodes were pretty darn good. I remember, Bill, we had some conversations. She's like, yeah, my audio was a little off. I'm like, I didn't notice it. Let me go back and listen. And I barely caught it. So if I had to rate you guys on a scale of 1 to 10 for your early episodes in comparison to most podcasts that I listen to and their early episodes, I give you about an 8 or a 9. Oh. That's pretty darn
good.
That's
awesome. Yeah. And you were one of our earlier episodes. And as I remember it, we had major technical difficulties. We recorded it at Economy. We were using new tech. And one thing you got to do is prep. You shouldn't be using new tech if you don't know what the heck you're doing. But we did. And we recorded it. We got all the way through a great 1-hour episode, and it was crap. you couldn't hear anything. You couldn't hear anything. And then we're like, and you were so gracious. You said, no problem. We'll record it again. Yep. And that's just what the community is like. It's like, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes, and we made a big one. And that's the only time it's happened. But we recovered from it. And you are episode 7, lucky number 7.
And everything happens for a reason, because the second recording, I think, was even better than it was the first time. We were so pleased with it.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you guys were, because I was doing renovations at my house. I had to live in 2 rooms in my house at that time. And I had the wonkiest setup. And thank God you guys weren't doing video at the time, because I'm like, as long as they could hear me good. I was in my bedroom, so everything was soft, my bed and clothes and all of that. So I'm glad that the end product turned out way better than I was feeling. So that's always good.
Oh, it was cool.
Yeah.
Great.
I love you guys swing for the fences. That's how you get better. You go for the big stuff. And if you don't succeed or something goes wrong, guess what? That's just your practice run for getting better. Right. So that's how I started seeing my mistakes. I don't even call them mistakes anymore.
Well, if it was going to happen, I'm glad it happened with you, because we've had a lot of big guests since then, and I can't imagine having that happen with. Yeah,
did you hear that, Becky? So he goes, I'm glad it happened. And I know Becky just got the joke. So he's saying, I'm glad it happened with you, because we had some other big guests where it really would have mattered. So does that mean I'm just chopping liver over here?
Got like kissing
no,
your
it would have been. The thing is, I know you well, and you're very forgiving, and you forgave us and came back to the home plate, and you swung for the fences too.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let me give you guys your flowers. I should have had a prop today that had flowers because I knew I wanted to give them to you, Bill and Becky. So,
thank you.
like I said, I came up with about 11 things. All right. So the first one, okay, I had to jot these down, is you have over 360,000 podcast downloads and an average of 5,000 episode downloads in the first week of publishing. That is huge for a new podcast. Okay. So that's awesome. You have nearly 200 podcast ratings on Apple, and you've got 60 on Spotify. Apple's the really big one. So 200 on Apple and then 60 on Spotify. So thank you, everyone who have rated the shows on any platform. Those really do make a difference. We love 5 stars. So the next one. See, I'm already saying we, right? I'm already saying we. I hope you guys are blushing. Okay, here's the next one. 4.9 stars. That's the rating that you have on both Apple and Spotify. I would say the average ratings for most podcasts are pretty high, fall between 4.5 or so. So 4.9, that's as near to perfect as you can get. Again, those really matter. So how you feel, that if you're putting kudos in the Facebook group, if you send an email, please make sure you also rate the show. 4.9 is truly amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the next thing, guys. Written reviews. I wrote a review, took a little bit more time. And the difference in a rating is that a rating, you just click 5 stars and you get 5 stars and that's it. A review is when you actually write something. It could be very short. It could be like 10 words, 1 sentence. And that's what I did. But you've got 60 written reviews on Apple Podcasts. And you know what, guys? The last review, I was looking at it today, was from January 17th. That's been almost a month. So if anyone feels like taking the extra step and writing a review, write 1 sentence. That helps other people find the show. And you guys, there's so many people that need the show. We were the other early adapters. We were the early Facebook members. Okay, we're there. But there's so many other people. I know a lot of friends, even family members that could benefit from it. And this just helps the show bubble up to the top so that people that are looking for financial information, financial podcasts, for people that might be catching up, everything that we're about is more likely to bubble up and be visible for more people. So because I'm such a big podcast listener, I know all this stuff and it really matters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what else we got, guys? 60 episodes. You did 1 every week without fail. And I'm like, how are they doing that? Bill is an emergency physician. Becky's busy with her family and traveling all over the world, going to Bali and on these Alaskan cruises. How are y'all putting out a podcast every single week? But there was never a missed week. Consistency is like a big deal. So I appreciate that because every Sunday I knew I was listening. I knew I was downloading and listening to the podcast. So I would be on my hike sometimes. Sometimes I would still be in the bed, not wanting to get up. But I appreciate the consistency. All right. Multiple in-person meetups. I remember the economy meetup. That was amazing. There's been some local meetups. Becky, you're on your Alaskan cruise and all over the place. Wherever you go, it's almost like you're wearing the moniker of Catching Up to 5. Mm-hmm. And we want to hear these stories. I love money stories personally. Mm-hmm. And so when you bring those stories, they're basically for people that are not on all these other podcasts. These are unique ones that people you have relationships with, people that you've heard of. These unique stories, you're bringing them to us. So I personally love the stories. Mm-hmm. So what else we got, guys? Okay. So you mentioned some of the amazing people that you interviewed, including myself. Just kidding.
Absolutely. One of the best.
Okay. So you interviewed some of the biggest 5 names. And I'm sure a lot of people ask, how did you get those big names when you're such a new podcast? And like you mentioned, Bill, you and Becky were already such a huge part of the FI community. You weren't just popping out of nowhere saying, ooh, this is the new trend. Let's do a podcast about it. No, you guys, Bill, I knew you for 3 or 4 years. Becky, I got to know you, but we have a ton of people that we both know in common in the FI community. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't hard. Like, Bill, when you asked me, I didn't just say yes. I said yes when. So I just wanted to see you guys win. I wanted to see this platform get exposed to many more people. And that's exactly what happened to a degree that I'm sure you guys never, ever imagined. So you've got big names. One of my favorite is Jael Collins. He's pretty much everyone's favorite, but there's a ton more. Nasima McElroy, she was one of my favorite as well. We all have our favorites. Think about what your favorite is. So 10,000, we just crossed 10,000 Facebook community members. I thought it was great when you hit 5,000. I'm like, oh, yeah, they're going to level out. And then you just double that. And so I think that comes from a lot of other podcasts mentioning the Facebook group, other platforms, other fans, other 5 people that just want to see you win. And people just like us, there's more of us than we ever know. But that has grown to 10,000. And it is a very active community. There is stuff going on every day. You welcome every group of new members. They introduce themselves. And it's just a fun community to be a part of. Now, that community requires some maintenance. So now you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've got 20 or so moderators, admins, 20. And that's what it takes to try to keep the community a safe space, to make sure it's monitored and to make sure not too much work is on any one person, and hopefully freeing you guys up to do the podcast and to do other stuff that I know you're doing in the background that is required in order to bring us the podcast you're bringing us every single week. All right. We know with any online community, there's all kinds of scammers and things like that. So there's been hundreds of bots, spammers, and scammers kicked out of the group due to this great admin and moderation team. That is huge. We're all annoyed with these spammers. Somebody's selling something. Oh, check this person out, sending bad links and things like that. So it takes a lot to be able to keep up with all that, but it makes a difference in the experience. And having, I just call it like a clean environment where we kick a lot of the trash out. Okay. So,
we know that all you guys have our backs, and you really have no idea what that means to us. Yep.
Yeah, and I was happy to do it.
It got overwhelming pretty fast. I mean, initially it was just a handful of us, and I couldn't keep up with it. And then we've been exponentially multiplying because a lot of other Facebook communities have mentioned us. There's been so many shout outs that we're grateful for. And they're coming from everywhere. They're coming from all over Facebook. They're coming from all over these podcasts. I mean, Becky and I were on Bigger Pockets, and their video, it really blew our minds. But the video we did with them it was last year, the all-time viewed video that Bigger Pockets had for the year. It had over 250,000 views.
Oh my gosh, that is that's another testament to how many people that are probably late starters, or it really resonated with them. And plus, you guys are so charismatic. That's the real reason. Okay, so I have a goal tonight. I want you to be as beet red as you possibly can get.
Well, you're going to have to watch the video to see that.
Yeah. The last one is that you added new staff. And these members, they help the community to have it keeps a podcast going. It just keeps it on fire, really. It helps to have all of these people that are experts with editing, with putting out social media. That's a lot of work. That's just a full-time job. And so I'm grateful that you hired the staff people. It definitely makes a difference. And it helps make sure everything keeps going smoothly, because it's impossible to keep up with everything. And I guess I will leave you with one last thing. So you mentioned that I'm working on the book Fire for Dummies, and it's an honor to be working with Wiley and putting that book out. And I love educating people, and I love breaking down complex topics. Now, the one area I could not miss including in the book is for late starters. And that was partially inspired by you guys and this show and what you're doing. So there is an entire section that talks about the benefits, or maybe the superpowers you might have as a late starter, the challenges, and it addresses the psychological side of that. So this community will get its props in the book, And it made it real easy to write about after having a year of you guys talking about it openly, bringing so many people into the fold. So I say thank you. And it is an honor to be a part of the team. And it's just going to be on fire for the next year, too. You guys set the stage, and now we're going to keep building on it.
That's right.
Well, your enthusiasm, your charisma, your expertise. I mean, you bring things we have not had on the show.
Right.
You have the legitimacy of being a CFP and a financial counselor. You don't practice per se. Your passion is, as you said, a financially literate society. But this is part of that, and we're happy to be a part of it. We are so happy to have you say yes when to come on this show. Honestly, there was only one person that Becky and I and a couple of my confidants said, "Yep, you got it. You hit it right. That's the one." And you were it, Jackie.
Bill, I bet you tell all the girls that.
Well, if I'm divorcing Becky, I got to get remarried. So
That's right. That's right. Jackie, I'm so excited about the new season for Catching Up to Fi. I'm excited about you being the person that's going to be behind the microphone. Our audience, I hope our audience realizes that we are not going to miss a beat, that you're going to step right in, that you're going to do a great job. And as Bill just said, you've got credentials that neither one of us have. So you're going to bring expertise and perspective that we have not been able to do before. So I can't wait to now turn into the listener and see where it goes. And thank you, Jackie, for mentioning the team behind us. And I wanted to specifically say that one of those team members, Diana, who is our social media expert, she's doing it as a volunteer position. She is not getting paid anything, and she spends hours every week making sure that everything is going, that our video clips are out there, that she's posting on all the social media platforms, because the bottom line is it's not about us. It's about the message. And we want to get, all three of us are passionate about getting this message out to the people that need it. And that's one of the things that Diana does for us, is get that message out there. So I just really appreciate her a lot.
Yeah, she came to
Absolutely.
us, Becky. She's a friend and a super fan, just like Jackie. And she came to us and said, "Can I do this for you?" And it's just overwhelming. I mean, she is such a generous person. She's doing such a great job. She didn't know what she was doing and has figured it out real fast.
Mhm.
So, and we're on all the channels. Heck, I never thought I'd have an Instagram channel, a TikTok channel, a YouTube channel.
I know. I don't even know how to do
Twitter. And it was, I tried to do it, and it was not something I really enjoyed. And it's a rabbit hole that this sucks up enough of my time. And I've got to go on my long walks with my dogs. And the other thing we did do was hire a virtual assistant. And so there is a cost to this show. It's not just a time cost, it's a financial cost. But Fritz Bossert has done a great job helping us add video, add clips, take away the 4 to 6 hours of editing a week for the show. It's really, I think, added elements to the show that we didn't have before. And then also, your daughter participates in the show.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you, Sarah, for doing our show notes. She does an excellent job of combing through an episode and making sure that you, our audience, has all the links you need to follow up on the things we talk about in the show. You don't have to take notes, as Becky says. You just got to go to the show notes and click on the links.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So this is so exciting. There's an element of sadness to this, obviously, but I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the good things that are going to be coming out in the future. So thank you so much, Jackie, for being willing to step in. And I also want you and everyone to understand that you're not going to try to become me. You're not going to take my place. You're going to be you. You're going to bring your own slant, your own effervescence, your own wonderful personality to this podcast. It's going to be different, but it's going to be amazing.
And that means a lot, Becky. That means a lot.
Well, now I'll be the oldest member of Catching Up to Fi.
Yes, you are.
You will. You will.
The grumpy guy that doesn't want to be on TikTok. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Jackie, what do we have to look forward to? What in the near future, the mid future, and maybe the far future do you see happening with this show?
What do I see? I see a lot of fun stuff. The Facebook group has gotten really big. I was thinking maybe we could have some off social media type classes or meetings online. We're still talking about so many different things. So we'll do a lot of cool stuff that will further engage the group and get a lot more participation from our community members. So I'm looking forward to be a lot more active and really to have fun with it. Like, so I've been retired for 4.5 years now. And the biggest thing I have taken away so far is that precision is not required. And so I was trying to be so perfect.
I like that.
Yeah, precision is not required because you know what? I've screwed up on my path to FI plenty of times, made mistakes, shifted. And since I've retired, I've still screwed up some things, but none of them blew up the building.
Right.
So it'll be a lot more engagement, fun. We want you to enjoy the journey. We want this to be a fun community as well. So that's kind of what I see. And we've just got a lot of stuff in the mix that we're working on.
Well, there's so many things we haven't talked about yet. And you're the HSA queen. So we're going to have to talk about HSAs. We have to talk about FI healthcare, Medicare, or community member stories. So we're going to reach out to you and say, hey, you want to tell us your story so that other people realize they're not alone. We want to provide you with inspiration on many levels. The tactics as to how to get there. We want to talk about generational wealth. I guess we got to talk about real estate too.
Look, whatever we're not experts on, we can find them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We know them already, and then we'll find them. We'll find them.
So yeah, a lot of cool topics. Yeah. So the HSAs, yeah, that's one of my big things. But all the other things that you mentioned, and we'll be curating a new list, and honestly, maybe a community generated list. We'd love to hear what you want to hear about, what you want to learn more about. And then Becky, you're still going to do your weekly money minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll throw in a few here and there just to give you a little extra content in between podcasts. And we hope to provide a lot of resources for you and remind you like daily that you're not alone. It's a whole community of us. We got at least 10,000 now in the Facebook group. So, and not to mention all the podcast listeners.
Yeah, we want to niche down and meet you personally. We want to do what we're doing right here, have a virtual, visual, interactive, intimate, and safe place too. And, we were thinking about a membership community where you would get presentations, guest speakers for Q&A, and like they do in Cincinnati, we're thinking about doing, now that we got you, we're thinking about doing case studies. Who wants to be transparent? Who wants to bring their numbers and run them by you? And I can help emotionally.
You can definitely. Well, the one thing, even though you read off some of my credentials, Bill, I can tell you going through the CFP process and my EFC, getting all the credentials, you know what? If I had to choose a financial team, and if it was between the FI people and the credential people, I think I choose the FI people. It's some people that are smart as heck that may not have a credential, but it's about education. It's about learning. It's about breaking down concepts. Those are the important things. And FI people are doers. Like there's so many things in the community that I read every day about, I did this. Yay. I finally took this next step. And those are the most encouraging to me when I see people actually taking action and doing something.
Mm-hmm. I was humbled recently because my sister recently joined the community.
Oh, yeah.
And she's gotten all right. She's been saving since the beginning, but she just clicked the box for aggressive portfolio at her place of employment and hadn't. And it's interesting. She did not look at her portfolio for 20 years, literally. And she came to me and said, I want to go over my portfolio and some ideas that I have with you. So I was humbled. My family didn't talk about finances. She showed me her numbers. She showed me where her portfolio was. And I had some humble recommendations for her because it was too complicated. And I said, you need to consider simplifying this so that you can manage it more easily. And I said, you did a great job not looking at it, but what are you going to do now with almost 100% stocks if the market goes down? Now I'm worried that you're too much. So I was like, maybe get a little more conservative, maybe simplify it. And there were some other ideas, certainly. And I really appreciated that transparency. And I hope to see that
That's pretty
in our
cool.
more niche down communities. I appreciate it from you. Becky and I have tried to be transparent because with transparency, you breed trust. And that's what we're trying to do in this community.
Right.
So what can you guys do for us? Not you and Becky, but what can our listeners do for us? Because there are things they can do. As you mentioned, leave an Apple or Spotify review, and then support the show. Help us defray costs by buying us a coffee, by going to the support us button on the website, and definitely visit the website, buy some swag, look at the resources that are there. We'll try and augment that. And then bring your friends and family and acquaintances that need this community. We want to get outside of the Phi community and reach the people that don't know about us. I challenge you guys to meet somebody that needs to help with the late starting or financial literacy in general, and then tell them about us. Introduce yourselves and ask your questions. We have a speak pipe on the website. We want to put your audio questions, and now that we got Jackie who can answer everything, we want to put your audio questions on the show, and maybe we'll do a show where we just answer questions. We've only had a couple. Jackie was our first voicemail speak pipe. We've only had a couple, and we need more of those. We want to answer your questions. And then to remind you again, join us tonight. We're recording this episode for a change the week that it drops because we want you to join us tonight for this is a celebration. This is a change of seasons. This is a passing. Becky's moving on. Jackie's coming in. I'm still here for better or for worse. Till death do us part. But join us tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern for a celebration. You have to go to the community and click on the Zoom link and sign up for the webinar. We'll be there. We hope to see you there. And I'm just excited, guys. Becky, any final thoughts?
Oh my goodness. I think we've covered a lot of territory today in this episode. And again, I just want to thank Bill. I want to thank you for the idea to put this together and for being the person to lead the charge. And Jackie, thank you so much for all the support that you've given us until now, and then now for stepping in behind the mic. And I want to thank the audience for the encouragement, the interactions that you have on the Facebook page, the emails that you've sent us, and just leave you with this encouraging thought of, I know this feels, if you're just starting and you're a late starter, I know it feels awful. I know it feels like you could not have, sometimes you feel like you couldn't have made a worse mistake than what you've done in the past. But forgive yourself, come up with a plan, and move forward, because it can be done. You can do this. And we're here to help you get there, to reach your end goal. So just don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Well, Becky, you're an inspiration. You did it, and you've shown everybody how to do it. I'm glad you're not leaving us. I'm glad you're moving on to, I'm happy for you that you're moving on to be an alumnus. We have alumni of the show now.
Right,
you've officially graduated.
Graduated.
If I could,
Late. I do everything late.
if I could, I'd give you a virtual hug, and maybe you need a diploma.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. It's been amazing. I love you both.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week on Catching Up to Phi. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to Phi. We would appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review so that our message can reach others.
We are not lawyers, financial advisors, accountants, or tax experts. Please consult your own professional advisors before making any important decisions. Our content is for entertainment and education purposes only.
We'll see you next time on Catching Up to Phi.